these.
I think most of you know who I am. And my name is Jewel. Been here 8 years, I think, going on, and provided student support and staff and faculty as well. We'll just do a quick introduction.
I'm Curtis Von Wintel. You probably don't know me. I work on the back-end systems and kind of managing the administration of some of our resources.
My name is Mildred Baker, and I support faculty and staff.
I'm Barb Ginsberg. I do classroom support and the electronic databases.
We'd send an email out. Oh, sorry, Glenn. They're sitting in the student section. So.
I'm Glenn Macbeth. I do classroom support and I co-teach law practice technology.
Well, thanks for coming. We were brainstorming a way to be able to reach you guys regarding technology and find out what sources you guys were interested in learning more about. One of the topics that you guys have responded to my question on what you'd want to learn was cloud storage and how that would affect you in law practice. And then we thought we'd throw in something that you wouldn't expect us to talk about, which is the new Google device Chromecast. So we're going to demo that at the end. So regarding cloud computing, or cloud storage specifically, cloud computing is more of a broader topic. My question is, are you using any cloud storage solution now? What are you using?
I use both, actually, Dropbox and SkyDrive.
And SkyDrive. Which do you prefer over the two?
SkyDrive.
Why?
Mostly because I was allotted 25 gigs of space on it. And I have found that it's easier to access as far as all my files and things like that at more places.
Okay.
So, because I can open Word documents and things that work on just my web browser and
You haven't noticed a performance and speed between the two, or when you're accessing it from a mobile platform?
Dropbox allows more of the mobile end. I can save more things to my actual phone, like for example, versus SkyDrive, it has to be internet connected. If you don't have an internet connection, you can't open anything on SkyDrive because it doesn't allow you to save it locally on like a mobile device versus Dropbox you can.
Okay.
So.
What was it you used?
Google Drive mostly. And I have a Dropbox account. I use it primarily for backup of my documents. We started with Washburn Law Democrats using it so that we can all access our documents. The problem that I have with Dropbox as opposed to Google Drive is I like to manipulate things in real time with other people. And so I find that using the documents in Google Drive is really handy to do that. I spent the majority of my time outlining with some of my some friends in the study group first semester, and then we continued to study together where we would go in and outline live with each other and take parts out that we felt was inappropriate and add parts in. And that's just been huge for me learning here. I prefer that as opposed to Dropbox because if I've got to edit a Word document with 3 or 4 other people, it gets kind of tedious to run through that, upload it in Dropbox, download it again, make sure that somebody hasn't timed that wrong so we don't have multiple documents in there. But I like Dropbox for the backup feature in case, heaven forbid, my laptop turns into a brick.
Do you use any?
Yeah, I use Dropbox.
Dropbox.
Picked up Dropbox free and play with it.
Because one of my friends is a programmer.
And then
That's really all
yeah,
I
you see,
use it.
I don't do other stuff.
I don't want to go into the other stuff.
But
That's good enough.
I started using Dropbox many years ago, and I found some of the features with it I like is, and a lot of the other cloud storage solutions offer this, is you can go back to different versions. I had done a system restore on my computer, and it had restored all my documents in Dropbox back to 2 months before. Luckily, I went into Dropbox and said restore previous versions and was able to get all my stuff back. I also have figured out if you use the public folder, you can use it to host a website. I did that for my master's degree. because I didn't want anything with advertising, but I had to code it, and so I found that was kind of a cool trick. One of the great things about cloud storage is that you don't have to worry about maintaining any updates. It's all taken care of for you. You also can reduce the overhead and costs of you open up a law firm and you want to store stuff in the cloud. You don't have the overhead of having the hardware and the server and maintaining the OSs and everything. The problem though is you have to be careful with, if their site goes down, your stuff's not accessible unless you've got a local downloaded copy on your machine. Some of the cloud solutions will actually do the dual copy where you have a local and a remote copy, and some are strictly cloud accessible. Some will allow for collaboration, some will not. Some offer unlimited usage on PCs, some are limited to one. I actually found online a comparison. There's a lot of sites, if you just search cloud storage comparison, that will compare different web solutions for storage and tell you how much it's going to be, what's the trial version. Some of these specialize specifically in only backing up instead of more for collaboration. The common ones are Dropbox, Google Drive, SkyDrive. There was one called Syncplicity that I had learned about that was very similar to Dropbox, where it allows you though to sync different folders versus just one, like with Dropbox. However, I kind of like to simplify things, and I've geared myself towards the one folder, just so I'm not confused. What is this folder syncing and not this one? Because that was one of the faults with Syncplicity. Also, some of these cloud solutions don't allow mobile access. And so to me, that would be something important if I was evaluating a cloud solution. The things to consider is your data in the cloud encrypted or not encrypted? Do you realize that before even Dropbox or any of these online cloud solutions came on, did you realize you're already using the cloud? Like your email is technically a cloud solution. So when people say, oh, I would never use the cloud, do you use email? You're using it. You're storing stuff in the cloud. You don't realize it.
Do you shop at Amazon?
Yeah. It's not anything new. They're terming it as new, but it's really old technology. So some things to consider, is your data encrypted and secured? Does it allow for real-time collaboration? What formats are supported? Recently, I just didn't know about this because when I used Google Drive, the G Drive, I've always originated my documents in the web interface. But with a couple of students, one had originated the files in Word, then synced it to their G Drive, and then they couldn't edit the file. Well, that's because Google's not, legally wise, they can't edit Microsoft documents. So they had to go in, convert it to a Google document to be able to collaborate on it. I didn't know that because I've not actually gone through the backdoor way, but that was something I was like, oh, that's good to be aware of.
And they've made it a little bit more seamless now, where you can literally upload the Word document and it just converts automatically.
It asks you?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a dialog box that comes up, and just like most of them, it'll have a checkbox that says, never ask me again, sort of thing, and maybe you check that or.
The student had, because I've not actually downloaded the client. I've always just worked in the cloud on the G Drive, and they must have ignored that pop-up. By the way,
well, it's pretty recent too.
Yeah.
There was about a 7-step process.
Okay. 3
or 4 months ago, it was nightmarish to try to get through. But that's changed within a month.
Okay. Some other questions is file versioning and sharing capabilities, which goes back to collaboration and does it stream? Does it offer streaming? I found some of these sites don't offer streaming. If you have a video up there and you wanted to share it with someone. So I read a document that had some good questions I wanted to share with considerations for law firms if you're going to use cloud storage. Include terms in the service level agreement that the data is owned by the firm and is not owned by the cloud provider, and that the cloud provider affirmatively agrees to this condition. You may not be in control of that, but when you're reading the terms and agreement, you might want to question who actually is owning this data. Also preserving confidentiality and security of the data. Make sure that's mentioned in the agreement, how that's going to be handled. If you remove something from the cloud, is it really gone? If you've removed something that's really important, contract terminated, whatever, all confidential data will be destroyed using a method that guarantees that no other persons can ever access the data. So working in the cloud, you know, it feels like you're empowered, but you also feel like you've lost some control if you're not aware of where that data is actually at. Because a lot of times servers have backups of that data, and so your data might still be lingering out there for a while. Lawyers must take responsible precautions to protect their data that's being stored on third-party servers. This is the same. The same goes for hard copies. You know, you're responsible for it. Where is your data stored? If it's in the cloud and it's on a server in Japan, our laws may not apply. So that's something to keep in mind when you're researching a storage solution for your firm or where you're working at. Last thing before we go in our demo, because we don't have too much time, is encryption. Yes.
I wanted to point out also, as far as law firms go, cloud storage it's probably a lot more reliable than anything that you might do in a small firm. You know, if your hard drive goes out in your small firm, you know, you may have just lost everything. But if you're operating off of cloud storage, you know, I don't think Google's ever lost a bunch of stuff. You know, I mean, it's a lot more reliable.
Yeah,
than we can do in a small firm.
Going in the cloud, I would say, would be more reliable. It's more cost effective, improves efficiency if you have a mobile access where everybody can work anywhere. It's really your concern. It's like security and data ownership. Encryption. Some of these sites offer encryption locally. Some only offer encryption of your files on the data. Dropbox, I wanted to just mention briefly about if you have a cloud storage solution that does not offer encryption, such as Dropbox, you can get a third-party software. Boxcryptor and TrueCrypt are the only two that I've really researched, and TrueCrypt is one where you actually have to put everything in a TrueCrypt drive. If you wanted to encrypt everything in Dropbox, you have to put the entire Dropbox folder in there. And so I've read that there's some issues with the TrueCrypt because there's a synchronizing conflict where really with TrueCrypt you really only want to use one machine because you can have different TrueCrypt encrypted files if you're working on multiple machines. Boxcryptor, however, lets you just pick specific files or folders within your Dropbox that you want to have encrypted. And then it's also more mobile platform friendly, where once you pull up the file, it immediately asks you for a password. Keep in mind, encryption is not supposed to hinder you from working, and so with encryption, if you find that you're struggling a lot with the encryption, it's making your job harder, you might want to look at another alternative. Boxcryptor, if you know, with most of them, or with all of it, if you forget your password, you've lost your data. So when you're thinking of encryption, make sure you pick a password you will remember, put it somewhere, you find it if you do forget it, so you don't actually lose your data. But Boxcryptor will, I've been reading reviews that Boxcryptor is a really good third party over TrueCrypt if you're using a solution that doesn't offer encryption. Do you have any questions so far?
I'd like to add that we're so interconnected with all the different services that we use, the cloud services, whether it's Twitter, Facebook, our email, you know, our shopping habits, our data storage, that if your services offer two-factor authentication, I would suggest using it, because usually it only takes one of those many points of contact we have on the internet to be breached to where we end up losing them all. If you have two-factor authentication for at least some of those, you can protect mainly your email account. Just about all the email providers will give you two-factor authentication. And really all that is you download an app on your mobile device, and you go through the setup process that usually establishes a PIN or some sort of code, and then when you turn on the two-factor authentication on that service, like your email, it will then ask you for that code. So that if you go to a new machine and you log into that account, it will ask you to pull up the app on your mobile device and enter the code, but it'll be a new code because it's synchronized with their algorithm, and that can help to protect you in many ways.
I would add to that, you know, obviously a lot of accounts that you have will refer to another account, like your email or whatever, and that's what you're protecting against. If you get a new email account, it might say, what's another email account that you have in case you lose this password? And I read a story last year about a guy that he lost control of every account he had because they managed to talk an operator into basically getting past a security password.
Social
Just one thing, and they
social
broke
hacking
into
still
everything.
occurs. You may be aware 20 years ago, Kevin Mitnick, famous social hacker, wrote a book. He was jailed and not charged for, I don't remember a long time. And because the laws at the time, they didn't know what to charge him with. Of course, he spent his time in jail and he got out, and he was always very famous, and they had free Kevin t-shirts and stuff. But he was the first social engineer that would hack socially, just calling phone companies, being able to speak the lingo to get access further on. But if you think about your security in general, most of us store our credit card information with various online retailers that we visit, and that's tied to an email account. And our Twitter and our Facebook is tied to an email account. And if one of those things gets breached, it can be a headache that you definitely don't want to deal with, especially in a lawsuit.
With encryption, ideally you want it local and remote. You want encryption on both ends. When you're thinking of encryption and you're researching, just remember you ideally want it at both ends. So that was my main discussion with cloud storage. I didn't want to demo all 100,000 of them and talk about all the sharing capabilities, because a lot of you are familiar with it. It was more just to get a conversation and discussion on some things to be aware of. Well, I'm going to jump into this Chromecast device. How many of you have heard of this? How many have used it? Do you know what it is, or you just heard that it's a new device?
Basically, it allows you to stream, I think you have to use Chrome, from like a computer over your Wi-Fi onto your TV or other HDMI.
Right. Google released this product in July or August.
I'm thinking it was August.
And Curtis first told me about it through an instant message, and I didn't really think much of it. He ordered one, and he sent me home with one that we ordered from the law school to test out. Well, that night I bought one because I found that I'm on my computer more than I am the TV, and I don't have a subscription to Netflix or anything, but I do a lot of YouTube and watching movies, so I'm able to basically utilize my TV a lot more. This is all it is. It plugs into the HDMI port in the back of your TV, and then this USB, you plug it into the TV as well, or you can plug it directly into a power source. It provides it power, and on some TVs it'll actually wake your television up and change the input automatically, but it should on all TVs change the input automatically. Once you plug this in, you're going to set it up on your wireless network at home, so you do need to have Wi-Fi. Once you've set it up and given it a name like living room or bedroom, you can use your mobile device to broadcast YouTube or Netflix, or your laptop you can broadcast anything from Chrome. So we're going to demo this. Right now I'm actually using it. I'm using this laptop and I'm using Chrome, and I've broadcasted to it. The little icon that you'll see, I don't think I have a, make sure I draw this accurately. It looks like this, and it will, yeah. This is what it looks like, and so if you, when you're using your phone or your iPad and it's on the same wireless network as the Chromecast and it's plugged in, YouTube will show you this little icon in the corner, and that says you can cast it over to the television. Same thing with your phone, and again with Chrome, you can cast it. It also offers the ability to Chromecast your entire desktop. So if you were giving a presentation on how to use your actual software application, for example, that's obviously not going to be in Chrome, you can demo that as well. They still call this program beta, or this device beta. They're constantly releasing updates. They don't give details on what those updates are, but they are constantly trying to keep it up to date. Do you want to give some background on some updates and what developers have done?
There is in the geek or nerd community, there's a developer, he goes by Kushik Duda, I'm not sure how to pronounce his full name. if you're familiar with the CyanogenMon, they do ROMs for Android-based phones, and they're actually going to be releasing a commercial phone in the Asian markets here soon. He found a way to do what's called AirPlay in the common sense, the Apple through the phone. Well, that's a little bit of a licensing problem for Google because they have movies that you have access to on your phone or other devices that aren't licensed to be on a TV or a larger screen. It's supposed to be on a mobile device or a computer. And so it's rumored that most of the first updates were this cat and mouse game between this developer and Google, because every time it updated, it would break his. And I saw a video just this morning, he's figured it out again. So at some point they'll have to give up the ghost, and those that they're licensing content from will just have to say, well, best efforts. Something that's very interesting about this device, for me, that caught my eye initially, I happened to be watching a keynote where this device really wasn't expected. You might remember the Google keynote from a year ago had the Nexus Q, which was this orb that was $300 and actually ended up being given away for free to everyone who bought one. Interesting concept, but a failed product. This seems to be its replacement. So it's gone from $300 to $35. And if you got in early, you got free Netflix for 3 months. But yeah, it's a device I use all the time in my house with my kids. We have 2 of them.
And your kids have not adjusted to it.
They are a little bit boggled because they're still used to me standing in front of the TV with a remote controlling like a set-top box. And when they come to the kitchen and I pull up a tablet and I just bring up the app and I hit play or whatever, they look at me and they're wanting me to come over and do the thing on the TV, and I'm like, it's playing, go over there, it's playing. So the concept is a little bit greater than that.
So I've pulled up a YouTube video on this iPad, and I'm going to broadcast it onto the Chromecast.
Is the audio on?
It should be.
The TV might be turned on.
That's the TV turned on.
Did we turn it down when we were testing?
Yeah. You can control the audio from your device, but if your initial device is too low, there's only so much you can do.
Yeah, so I can pause it and I can control the volume from this device, which is kind of nice. It's like, where's the remote? Screw the remote. We got this. So it's pretty neat. Now while this is playing, let's say I want to interfere with another Chromecast.
Nice. Yes, understand. Gentlemen, it appears that Ginger Cat has struck again. As the head of the CAT unit, and the only one of us who actually has a face, I need to inform you.
So now I'm interrupting that signal, and I'm going to play a song from my phone. I keep pausing when I need to play.
So what kind of security is there on the thing to keep you from doing that? Someone
There's
else
none. It's designed for home use, not enterprise,
I can see this being something that's going to be remedied very, very soon.
Yeah.
If you think about all the apartment complexes in the world and all the people that live in those with Wi-Fi, that you'll be able to find all these devices out there because they're openly broadcasting their signal, and people do mean things or what they think are funny things, and that might not be appreciated by the people who bought this. So I expect a very simple password scheme to be coming shortly.
So how does the access work for the mobile device that you have to access that? That's where I'm confused. I understand it plugs into the TV and how the TV receives. I just don't understand how the control works for, say, like your phone.
Well, first of all, let me go back to, this is a Google device and this is kind of a Google phone. So it plays real nice, but I'm actually sending the signal from here on the same wireless network to this. So it kind of hands it off,
Okay.
so to speak.
It's your phone hooked up to the wireless.
Right, it's
Yeah.
communicating throughout wireless.
Okay.
It's
So-
really doing two sorts of communications. Initially, when she told it to play the video, it just sent the internet information to the Chromecast,
Through
played this
Wi-Fi.
video, and then the Chromecast went out and got the content from the internet. Now it's continued to talk to whatever mobile device you have for the play, pause, fast forward features. So even if you do something through YouTube and you're logged in, say it's a private video that you haven't shared publicly, you can still play that on a Chromecast because it's going to send your authentication information to the Chromecast. It will then fetch the appropriate video from the internet. These services, there aren't very many right now. Netflix, YouTube, the Google services, Google Play, stuff like that. I've heard Pandora, Plex, a number of other developers are really getting on board, but they haven't released what's called the SDK, the software development kit, publicly yet. So I expect there to be a ballooning of the number of things that you can stream to this device. Roku sees it as a direct competitor, and now we have a nice, as consumers, we have a nice cat and mouse game going on between these set-top boxes of who's going to offer us the added value of a feature that will compel us to buy their device, which really just benefits us.
What I also think is neat is I initiated the song from my phone, but now I'm over here on the laptop, and I can play and pause it from my laptop. Because my husband had a song playing on his phone. I was like, dude, it's dinner time, so I paused it from my phone. I was going to show you the desktop environment. So then you can see my, well, let me go back.
Did for a moment.
Well, you know, I think it's because I closed Chromecast, or closed Chrome. I should have left it open, I should have minimized it. It has a very beautiful screen as you are not using it. It changes periodically.
And I have not read where it's getting those images from. I kind of expected some sort of Flickr, Tumblr sort of algorithm that they use to pull in the stuff they want, but maybe it's a, Google selected images, I don't know.
When you're using Chrome, can you stream anything? So if I wanted to play an ESPN video,
You're actually streaming the entire browser or tab. And Jewel had mentioned this to me, you know how we use tab browsing so much anymore. So say you wanted to share something with your friends or with some people you're studying with, you could share that tab, and because you've already seen that content, you can switch over to do something else or another application as long as you leave that running. So if you're working on your Word document, you're doing your brief, you can still show them a highlight video of a game or something and still work on your Word document.
And most importantly, you can go to Hulu using Chrome on your computer. And
yeah, and then
Now
play
the
Hulu
icon's
on
not
there.
showing.
I mean, because that's what I do in the evening is I try to watch Netflix with the HDMI cable straight from my laptop. But it'd be nice to switch back and forth between that and actually, like you said, preparing something.
Netflix on all platforms except for BlackBerry and Windows should work. Although we've only tested. Did you test Netflix on the iPad?
No, I have not, because I don't have an account.
At their keynote, they indicate. At their keynote, they indicated on iOS Netflix would work as well as on the desktop. Pandora was another partner. Of course, YouTube, the Google Music, Google Play stuff. You should be able to play just fine.
Absolutely.
I have a question.
If you have an iPad,
So if you have an iPad, so you could have something playing here in a different program on your iPad? Or is it just the one program only?
I know on the Google-based tablets, you can do exactly what you're asking. I'm not sure if the multitasking of an iPad will handle that. You may have to leave that one application.
Yeah, so I'm opening Dropbox while that's playing. I know with my phone, let me pause this.
That's loud.
I know. I can play music and then just turn it off. And my father called me and I was able to talk while it was playing the music. So, pretty nifty. We thought it'd be, I've tried explaining it to people and they just can't wrap their head around it until I demonstrate it. But it's made YouTube even more attractive. And are there any questions about that? Really? Yeah.
This is just a minutia type question. On YouTube, have you been able to play like any video you wanted, or are some of them restricted from?
The live streams, you had found out if something was being broadcast live, that people were not able to Chromecast to it. I don't know if there's been an update to resolve that yet. I haven't tested a live stream. Oh, he's sending something.
No security, I get to do whatever I want, right? Just a funny little video. I think it's hilarious. I love it when they play preschool instruments.
What other topics, this is something we want to ask, what other topics would you guys like to see us talk about in the future or demonstrate?
Well, you guys did the tabs 3 and I missed it. I was kind of interested in that.
Tabs 3.
I actually made a video of that if you want to see the video.
Oh, great, great.
And if you go to the videos page, one of the sections is law practice technology. And it's a pretty dry presentation because it's a dry subject. But
Yeah, it's kind of like
Yeah.
every video I watch all day long. There's very little personality in those.
I don't know if this is a dumb topic or not, but you know, our society is so entrenched in Mac and PC.
Mhm.
I'm actually interested in Chrome, like the
The
operating-
Chrome OS, yeah.
Yeah, Chrome.
Like the
OS.
Chromebooks and stuff?
New HP just launched this morning.
So, did it? I didn't know if it was gonna, but like, I haven't used it at all. I, played with it at Best Buy and things like that. And, like, I've done Linux. I don't like Linux because to me it's a pain. I like things that just work. But like, the idea of the Chrome OS is kind of, I guess, neat to me because of the affordability of it.
They can throw some really high-end hardware specs at you with that OS combination because they don't have to pay licensing fees to any company, and you can get a really beautiful screen and responsive system. I would think the downside is it is internet connected always, so if you ever have an outage of your internet connection or you walk away and you go to the park and you think you're going to work on it, well, not likely here in Topeka. You're going to find a park with Wi-Fi. I know they're much more popular in more populated areas. All the businesses offer free Wi-Fi just openly. You just pick and choose when you're in these large metro areas. The hardware reviews and really the Chrome OS reviews that I've read have all been very, very positive. I think it's the fact that it doesn't offer any local storage or local programs that puts people off. So really it has to do with your comfort level of that. There's also some talks about Chrome and Android kind of coming together. They recently announced web apps for Chrome so that you can launch an app that it's actually running through the engine of the browser, but it doesn't look like a browser. But again, it still requires an internet connection. And that internet app connection outages used to be a lot more common. Back when I first, in the late 90s, was working on stuff, it wasn't uncommon to have more than one in a day in an office. And now it's rare that we see them once a month.
I have not gotten my hands on a Chromebook, but one of the questions that one of the things I know that Farhan had experienced was they wanted to add the printers. And because it's not an OS that you just click add printer, you have to print through either the Google Cloud, and set up, or HPE print, set up printing that way. So it rethinks things like, you were saying Linux, things just don't work sometimes. Well, with the Chromebook, sometimes the simplest things like adding a printer might be difficult for the basic user. So I was trying to download Boxcryptor and play with it today.
Sometimes, jumping back to the encryption topic, I think we all have a first-hand experience of encryption creating issues too. So there's that balance between your security and usability. And that's a constant battle. It's something that I think about, every day. If something's so secure it's not usable, why have it? So you'll have to make those choices as well. Whether you have your own firm in the future or now as you're navigating law school. Something that I've always found interesting about working in the technology field when it comes to organizations, they kind of want to put all the equipment in the basement. And if you're ever in control of that decision, please don't do that. Basements are humid. Basements have temperature fluctuations. Basements are the first places that get flooded, which happen more often than any other really natural disaster. It happens on minor scales, which can have a big impact. Stick it in a closet somewhere, but keep it out of the basement. If you have any other questions you think of later, don't hesitate to send us an email. We did get a number of questions that were really pertain to running a law office and the legal ramifications or choices that you'll have to make. We aren't necessarily equipped to handle giving legal advice. You'll be more equipped to handle those questions yourselves. But Glenn has a class, Law Office Technologies, that if you're a 2L or a 1L, in other words, you'll be back for next fall. He has a class. If you can work it into your schedule, it might be useful. Tell your friends. Hopefully we can drag in a few more bodies. If they can't make it, we'll of course post the video on our streaming server, and we have a blog site that we put up where we can also handle questions that we couldn't get to during this period of time. Right now we're only looking at doing these sort of discussions once a month, unless things were to pick up where we needed to do more often. I don't know if we can handle that or not, because there is some preparation that we have to do. So again, tell everybody, send us your questions. If we don't cover them here, we can post them to the blog and direct respond to you. We really wanted another avenue to talk about technology that wasn't necessarily tied to your law school experience. Because technology is overwhelming our lives in a lot of ways. And I'm sure you would probably be more comfortable asking the questions that are law school specific technology questions. And we thought we'd bridge that gap between the law school and the rest of the technologies you might use in this sort of way. Not that we wouldn't answer those questions anytime, but some people might refrain from asking those questions.
Thank you for coming.